My parents actually sued me to steal my $3 million lake estate, they claimed, with a straight face, that I owed it to my unemployed sister, Chloe, because family shares blessings. So there I was in court, watching my mother dab fake tears with a tissue that was still dry, while my father hunched over like a wounded patriarch betrayed by his cruel daughter, and I laughed, not loud, not kindly, just enough for them to turn and stare, because inside Daniel's briefcase was every receipt, every record, every lie they forgot I had saved. That house was never just a house to me. It sat at the edge of a quiet lake outside the city, wrapped in pine trees, with cedar beams across the ceiling and tall glass windows that caught the sunrise before it touched the water. In the mornings, I would stand barefoot on the kitchen tile, my hair twisted into a loose bun, coffee cooling in my hand, staring at blueprints spread across the island. I was 36 years old, a structural engineer, and every inch of that place had come from years of missed holidays, late dinners eaten over a desk, and paychecks I refused to waste. My parents liked to pretend they had built me. They had not. Richard Whittaker. My father. Loved using the voice. You know the one. Low, slow, heavy with authority. Like the whole room was supposed to shrink when he cleared his throat. My mother, Elaine, was softer but worse. She could tilt her head, touch your wrist, and make a demand sound like heartbreak. Then there was Chloe, my younger sister, 30 years old, no steady job, no real plan. She called herself a wellness creator, which mostly meant filming herself lighting candles my parents paid for in apartments they also paid for. Growing up, Chloe was fragile, Chloe was special, Chloe needed patience, I was capable. That was the word they used when they wanted to take something from me. When I was in high school, I won a science award for a bridge model I spent months building. My mother moved it into the garage so Chloe could display a crooked watercolor in the living room. Moisture warped the wood. One side collapsed. "Don't be dramatic." "Megan," Mom said, "your sister needs encouragement." At college graduation, I scanned the bleachers until my throat hurt. Their seats were empty. Later, I found out they had driven Chloe to a weekend retreat because she felt overwhelmed by community college. She dropped out 3 weeks later, so when they came to my lake house that Sunday afternoon, I already knew the pattern. I just did not know how far they planned to take it. Chloe walked in first, perfume sharp and sweet, phone raised, recording the entryway. "Oh my God," she whispered to her camera, "this is exactly the energy I need." Mom smiled at the windows like she was pricing them. Dad lowered himself onto my leather sofa and tapped the armrest twice. "This is too much house for one woman," he said. Chloe turned slowly, framing the lake behind her face. And for one sick second, she looked less like a guest than someone taking a tour of her future property. "Dad did not ask me to help Chloe," he announced it. "She needs somewhere stable," he said. Looking around my living room, a peaceful environment. "You're barely here anyway." I set my coffee down slowly. "Chloe is not moving into my house." Mom's face folded like I had slapped her. "Megan," she whispered, "listen to yourself." Chloe lowered her phone just long enough to sigh. It would only be temporary. Unless, honestly, it makes sense to put me on the deed. For security. I stared at her. She said it so casually, like asking for almond milk. "No," I said. That one word changed the air. Dad's jaw tightened. Mom looked toward the lake, blinking hard, waiting for tears to appear. Chloe's mouth twisted. "You have all this," she said, waving one manicured hand around the room. And I'm still trying to find my path. I almost laughed then, but I was still trying to be a daughter. 3 days later, I came home early from a site meeting and heard music pounding through the front windows. Cars lined the driveway. A woman I had never met stood on my porch holding a smoothie and taking selfies. Inside, strangers were everywhere. Shoes on my white rug, wine glasses sweating on the walnut table. Someone had moved my framed engineering award to make room for a ring light. Chloe stood in the middle of my living room, barefoot, smiling into her camera. "Welcome to the first healing circle in my new lake space," she said. My new lake space. Then I heard the crash. In the dining room, my ceramic bowl lay shattered across the floor. I had bought it after my first major project. When I finally felt like my work had weight in the world, Chloe glanced at the pieces. "It's just a bowl. Everyone out," I said. The room went quiet. Chloe's cheeks flushed. "You're humiliating me." "No," I said. "You did that when you invited strangers into a house you don't own." They left muttering, dragging their bags, leaving perfume, spilled wine, and muddy footprints behind. Mom called before I finished sweeping. "You damaged your sister tonight," she said, voice shaking on command. I hung up. I spent an hour cleaning. Then I went into the guest room to gather Chloe's things. Her tote bag was open on the bed. A stack of papers had spilled onto the quilt. At first, I thought they were content notes. Then I saw my address. My lake house listed as collateral for a business loan. Beside it, in the margin, Chloe had practiced my signature over and over until the letters almost looked like mine. The next morning, a thick envelope arrived. My parents were suing me, and that was when I understood. They were not asking anymore. I wanted to defend myself online. I wanted to post the loan papers, the fake signature, the lawsuit, all of it. I wanted every person calling me selfish to see what my family had really done. But Daniel stopped me. "Do not fight a performance with another performance," he said. "Fight it with records." So I went quiet. Chloe did not. By noon, she had posted a video from her apartment, wrapped in a blanket, eyes red, voice trembling. "My sister has more than enough," she told the camera. And she still threw me out like garbage. Mom shared it. Dad commented under it. "Proud of you for speaking your truth." Within hours, my phone turned into a hornet's nest. Cousins, old neighbors, women from Mom's charity circle, people I had not seen since high school telling me I should be ashamed. Then came the call that made my hands go cold. A developer I had worked with for months said they were pausing a commercial project until the family situation cleared up. I sat at my kitchen island, surrounded by cedar, glass, and silence, while the lake outside stayed painfully calm. My coffee had gone cold. My phone kept lighting up. For one awful minute, I felt 16 again, standing in the garage, staring at my broken bridge while everyone celebrated Chloe's finger painting. Then I opened my laptop. Daniel gave me a list. Deed, mortgage records, closing documents, tax payments, bank statements, student loan history, old messages, anything showing who paid for what and who lied about it. I found everything. The records showed I bought the house alone. No family money, no secret agreement, no shared account, just my name, my income, my signatures, my years. Then Daniel dug deeper. He found years of payments from my parents to Chloe. Rent, car notes, credit cards, failed business launches, wellness retreats. Thousands and thousands of dollars dressed up as support. Support I never received. That evening, Aunt Vivian called. Mom's older sister had a smoker's rasp and the cleanest conscience in that whole family. "I heard what Elaine is saying," she told me. She forgot what she wrote when she thought I was on her side. An email chain arrived minutes later. I read it standing in the kitchen, one hand gripping the counter. Elaine had written that if I refused to share the house, they would sue, drain me with legal bills, and pressure me to settle. She called Chloe the child who truly needs the property, not a home, the property. The next morning, I changed every lock legally, upgraded the cameras to cover the full perimeter, and told Daniel all contact would go through him. At mediation, Mom arrived pale and soft-voiced. Dad wore the face of a grieving father. I brought one folder, and inside it was the beginning of their collapse. The courthouse smelled like floor polish and old paper. I wore a navy suit, my hair pulled low at the back of my neck, my hands folded on the table where Daniel had placed the folder. Across the aisle, my family had dressed for a different kind of performance. Mom wore a faded cardigan I had never seen before. She kept pressing a tissue under her eyes, but the tissue stayed white and dry. Dad sat beside her in an old gray suit. shoulders rounded, mouth tight, one hand resting on his chest like I had personally broken his heart. Chloe sat behind them scrolling on her phone. Their lawyer stood first and talked about sacrifice, family, duty, a daughter who had forgotten where she came from, a successful woman sitting alone in a house too large for her while her sister struggled. Judge Marlowe watched him over her glasses. "Counselor," she said, "I'm interested in evidence, not poetry. Show me the financial contribution your clients made to this property." The lawyer swallowed. Dad was called to the stand. He lifted his chin before swearing in, trying to look noble. For a minute, he sounded almost convincing. He said he and Mom had given me a stable home, moral support, the foundation for my career. Daniel stood slowly. "Mr. Whitaker, did you pay any part of Megan's college tuition?" Dad shifted. "We taught her independence." "So, no. We supported her emotionally." Daniel looked down at his papers. "Did you pay her rent? Textbooks, student loans, or any portion of the lake house down payment?" Dad's face reddened. Megan was always capable. There it was. That word again. Daniel nodded and placed the first set of records before the court. My loans, my rent payments, my closing documents, my mortgage, my tax payments. One name appeared over and over. Mine. Then he placed down another stack. "These are payments Richard and Elaine Whitaker made to Chloe Whitaker over the same period," Daniel said. "Rent, vehicles, credit card balances, business expenses, retreats, a long pattern of financial support." Chloe stopped scrolling. Mom dabbed harder at eyes that still had no tears. Dad leaned forward. Chloe needed help. Daniel's voice stayed calm. "And Megan needed a house stolen from her." Their lawyer objected. Judge Marlowe overruled it before he finished standing. Then Daniel opened the second folder. "This is a loan draft found in Megan's guest room after Chloe hosted an unauthorized gathering in the home. It lists Megan's lake house as collateral for Chloe's business loan. In the margin are repeated attempts to imitate Megan's signature." The courtroom went still. Chloe whispered, "That was just brainstorming." Judge Marlowe's eyes snapped toward her. "You are not on the stand." Mom's tissue froze halfway to her cheek. Daniel was not done. He handed over the email chain from Aunt Vivian. Mom's own words, her plan to sue, exhaust me with legal bills, and pressure me into adding Chloe to the deed. Dad's wounded face collapsed first. Mom's followed. I looked at them, at the tissue, the cardigan, the trembling mouths, the whole little theater they had built around my life. And I laughed, quietly, because the girl who once begged to be believed was gone. Judge Marlowe removed her glasses. "This case is a baseless attempt to use the court as leverage in a family property dispute," she said. "The claim is dismissed. I will consider sanctions and legal fees after reviewing counsel's motion." The gavel came down, and for the first time, my silence did not mean surrender. The ruling did not make my family disappear overnight. People like Richard and Elaine do not vanish. They leak out of your life slowly, like smoke after a fire, leaving stains on everything they touched. 2 weeks after court, Daniel called to tell me the judge had granted legal fees and sanctions. My parents were ordered to pay what their lawsuit had cost me, plus penalties for dragging a baseless claim into court. Chloe got nothing. Not a room, not a key, not 1 inch of the lake house. For once. The numbers were not being twisted against me. They were standing guard. Court records are not family secrets. That was the part my mother had forgotten. The woman who had spent years polishing her image over charity lunches and holiday photos suddenly had her own words sitting in public documents. The email about draining me with legal bills. The plan to force a settlement. The line about Chloe needing the property. Not Megan. Not my daughter. The property. People read it. Dad lost clients first. Men who used to slap him on the back at business dinners stopped returning his calls. Nobody wanted advice from a man a judge had called out for using the legal system against his own child. Mom's fall was quieter, which probably hurt her more. Invitations stopped. Her charity committee replaced her without a speech. Women who once praised her perfect family crossed the room when she walked in. Chloe lasted the shortest. Without my parents paying her rent. Her apartment disappeared fast. Without their credit cards, her wellness brand became a phone, a ring light, and a lot of angry videos nobody watched for long. Then, one cold night, my security alert chimed. I was in the kitchen, rinsing a mug, when my phone lit up with the front gate camera. Chloe stood outside in a thin coat, hair messy, mascara under her eyes, gripping the iron bars like they were the only thing keeping her upright. "Megan!" she screamed through the intercom. "You ruined this family!" Her voice cracked across the speakers and bounced through the quiet hall. For a second, old instinct moved in me. The instinct to explain, to fix, to calm everyone down so I would not be called cruel. Then I looked around my kitchen, the cedar beams, the clean counters, the dark lake beyond the glass. Mine. I did not go outside. I did not argue. After the harassment, the smear campaign, and the threats, Daniel had helped me get a protective order. So I called the police and gave them the facts. No drama, no revenge speech, just facts. When the cruisers arrived, blue and red lights washed over the pine trees. Chloe pointed toward the house, crying, trying to make them look at me instead of her. But this time, nobody asked me to carry her consequences. They led her away for violating the order. I stood behind the glass and watched the lights fade down the drive. The house was silent after that, not empty. Silent. A few months later, I turned 37 on the back deck with friends, co-workers, Daniel, and Aunt Vivian laughing near the fire pit. The lake reflected strings of warm lights. Someone poured coffee. Someone else cut cake. For the first time, the house did not feel like something I had to defend. It felt like somewhere I could finally live. I used to think locking the door meant I had failed as a daughter. Now I know it meant I had finally chosen myself. That night, after everyone left my birthday party, I walked down to the dock alone. The boards were cool under my bare feet. The lake moved softly in the dark, tapping against the posts like a heartbeat that had finally slowed. I thought about that laugh in the courtroom. It was not joy. It was not cruelty. It was the sound of fear leaving my body after 36 years. My parents said I owed my life to family, but real family does not sue you for the home you built. Real family does not turn your success into someone else's inheritance. Real family does not ask you to bleed quietly so they can call it love. If you have ever had to protect your peace from the people who were supposed to protect you, you are not alone. Share your story in the comments. And subscribe so you do not miss the next one. The lake was quiet. And for once, so was my heart.